Tonight, Wall Street's wild ride over fears of a global economic downturn.
I have a bad feeling about the market opening today.
Dread, chaos, and confusion as Donald Trump threatens another massive tariff on China.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing.
And on the campaign trail in this country, leaders pushed back on Trump's tariffs.
Wrong-headed, unnecessary, chaotic policies.
Disrupting the global economy, global financial markets.
Their plans to help protect senior savings from market volatility. And we're here in Medicine Hat, Alberta, a community looking for opportunity amidst all this uncertainty.
We're hoping to see common sense prevail, that people will say, hey, we can do this in our own backyard.
How a city used to volatility is looking to a made-in-Canada approach as we crisscross the country to hear from you.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault in Medicine Hat, Alberta.
Thanks for joining us. We're on the road again tonight in the heart of southeastern Alberta with just 3 weeks to go to the election. This city, Medicine Hat, is proud of its self-reliance, but it's not immune to Donald Trump's trade war, uncertainty that rocked global markets again. Stocks plunged across the board, then whipsawed up and down as investors dealt with more mixed messaging on tariffs. And the fear is they could get even worse as Donald Trump threatens another 50% tariff on China. Trump says he's open to negotiation, but his policy keeps changing. And as Katie Simpson shows us from Washington, the U.S. president seemed to just make matters more confusing today.
Israel's prime minister, the first world leader to go to the White House seeking relief from new U.S. tariffs.
Thank you very much.
Even as these longtime allies sat together, Donald Trump vowed to push ahead with his plan.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing.
Trump firing his biggest shot yet, threatening to hike tariffs on China by 50%, creating a new combined rate of 104%. All in response to China's retaliatory tariffs.
Well, it's really hard to really grasp, I think, how big this is. This is something that would be profoundly significant and an escalation that would really hurt the United States.
Significant since China sells hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods to the U.S. every year.
And we're going to see folks feel that when they go shopping, whether they're buying regular groceries, whether they're buying clothes, shoes, all sorts of things.
There is a sense of confusion and frustration among world leaders on how to deal with Trump's trade war.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States, but we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu taking a different approach, trying to appease the U.S. president.
We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same.
Even with that pledge, Trump remained non-committal on whether he'll reduce tariffs on Israel.
Well, we're talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot.
The president has hurled a wide range of mixed messages on tariffs, summed up almost perfectly today, in response to a question about whether tariffs are permanent or whether he's open to negotiations.
They can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs.
Those things beyond tariffs, Donald Trump is looking to eliminate anything that makes it harder for an American company to compete in foreign markets. He's attacked food standards in Europe. Taxes, he says, penalize U.S. businesses. His list is long and always evolving.
And Katie, it seems pretty clear that the president is really trying to make an example of China after it retaliated.
The message from the White House has been, we will hit you back harder if you dare retaliate. Now, you saw how they seem to be dealing with China, but keep in mind, that's a longtime adversary with widely criticized trade practices. Then there's how they responded to Canada. Ottawa's retaliation didn't get this kind of escalation. No doubt world leaders are going to look at both as they decide how to respond.
All right, Katie Simpson in Washington, thank you. As governments try to make sense of the sweeping tariffs, investors watched as markets swung wildly. And as Peter Armstrong explains, Even Trump's billionaire allies are criticizing his tariffs.
Don't mistake the smiles for enthusiasm. Everyone knew this was going to be a lousy day on Wall Street.
I have a bad feeling about the market opening today.
The North American opening followed another dismal day in Asia and Europe. Hong Kong posted its worst day since 1987. China, the worst since 2008. Investors everywhere are rattled.
They are rattled because the measures announced by the Trump administration are much tougher than markets thought they would be, because they are universal, because they are not targeted, and because they are not based on economic fact.
Allies of the president spent the weekend offering ways to de-escalate. Billionaire Bill Ackman warned America was headed for a self-induced economic nuclear winter. He suggested a 90-day pause in tariffs. Then, a few hours into trading, a Wall Street X account made this bold claim. Trump is considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except China. Markets surged, bouncing back into positive territory, but moments later, markets plunged again when the White House said the story was fake news. The news may have been fake, but the episode highlights the real desire for clarity, and until that comes, stocks are at risk. Retail companies that sell cheap goods, banks that would suffer in a recession, and of course, U.S. tech stocks.
This would really wipe out, in my opinion, the modern U.S. tech world.
U.S. tech companies are so embedded in the Chinese supply chain that analysts say tariffs on China could set the American tech industry back a decade.
For the first time, U.S. is ahead of China in tech. This would wipe that out, and China ultimately would zoom ahead.
And after all of that roller coaster of a day, stocks ended down slightly. But the volatility, Adrian, is just everywhere. And with the next tariff deadline looming at midnight on Tuesday, it's not going anywhere.
And Peter, there are forecasts that the U.S. is heading into a recession, and I'm wondering what we in Canada should be making of that.
Look, one prominent CEO today said he thinks the U.S. is already in a recession, but there's a growing consensus that if Trump follows through on the threat to impose this next round of tariffs on China Tuesday night, that the base case for the U.S. economy is that it will slip into a recession by the end of this year.
All right, Peter Armstrong in Toronto tonight. Thank you, Peter. Talk of recessions and economic shock the world over is helping to push down the price of oil, too, as people prepare for shaky financial futures. As Kyle Bax explains from Calgary, that has some Canadian oil companies bracing.
A $10 plunge in oil prices in a matter of days has one of the country's largest industries on high alert.
It's tough. I think it's kind of an overreaction.
Oil is trading on the cheap over concerns for the global economy. Saturn Oil and Gas operates in Alberta and Saskatchewan. With prices down to nearly $60 a barrel, the company could slash spending and drilling.
If we see a sustained 60, you're going to see companies pull back on capital. Once they pull back on capital, I mean, that's less need for engineers and geologists.
Since the latest round of tariffs from the U.S., North American oil prices have fallen about 15%. The industry is largely exempt from any direct tariffs. Instead, the global trade war could lead to a slower economy, lower consumer spending, and thus less demand for crude.
The ones that got hit hardest by tariffs were largely China and across East Asia. That is also the area where we expect to have the largest contribution to global oil demand growth over the coming year and years. So that is inevitably going to have a damaging effect.
At the same time, some countries, including members of OPEC, are producing more oil. That too is driving prices down. As a result, the value of Canadian energy companies is sliding.
If you're an investor, you'll wonder about what you should do. Should you stay the course or should you make some changes? So there's a lot of moving parts here that's adding a lot of anxiety.
Tumbling prices could cost some provinces billions in expected revenue from taxes and royalties.
We have a worst case scenario budget. We knew that we were going to end up with a lot of volatility.
Ultimately,
for now, companies will keep a close watch on prices.
Hopefully that this trade war is short-lived. You know, we're hoping that we start seeing trade deals come out.
Waiting before deciding when to cut back on drilling and by how much. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
Campaigning as the market sank, federal party leaders slammed Donald Trump for creating even more global chaos. And as Evan Dyer explains, they pitched ways to help soften the blow for some Canadians.
Donald Trump's latest moves hitting the campaign trail.
We are all watching the stock market with interest today.
Party leaders addressing the dive in the markets and Trump's sweeping tariffs.
This chaos is the direct result of wrong-headed, unnecessary, chaotic policies coming from President Trump.
Disrupting the global economy, global financial markets, by directly targeting Canadian workers.
Liberal and Conservative leaders both pledged to help shield Canadian savings from the turmoil, focusing specifically on seniors.
We've proposed to delay by 2 years the time when seniors must withdraw their savings from their RSP and be taxed on it. This 2-year delay will save many seniors from being forced to crystallize losses they're experiencing on the stock market today.
We will reduce the minimum amount that must be withdrawn from registered retirement income funds by 25% for the next year. And the benefit here is that seniors won't have to withdraw as much of their hard-earned savings when markets are volatile.
The Liberals also promised help for low-income seniors by temporarily boosting the guaranteed income supplement. Besides the markets, Trump's tariffs on Canada's auto sector are also hitting workers hard. Most immediately, those at this Stellantis plant, now laid off for at least 2 weeks. Ontario's premier now allowing some businesses to defer certain provincial taxes for 6 months.
Let's hope that President Trump comes to some common sense here. The markets are tumbling again. Consumer confidence is down.
In Quebec, where many are still suffering under the weight of steel and aluminum tariffs, Yves-François Blanchet said the market turmoil could continue to help Carney.
When people feel or fear something, the first to present an answer might have an advantage.
With Trump showing no signs of backing down, all campaigns can expect more disruption as Election Day draws closer. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
All right, let's check in with some other reporters on the campaign trail, starting tonight right here in Alberta.
I'm Marina von Stackelberg covering the Conservative campaign. We are just south of Edmonton at Pierre Poilievre's rally. His organizers say this is the biggest one yet, more than 12,000 people, and an important one for Poilievre because tonight he got the endorsement of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Have a listen.
From a person who has been right on all the big issues for a decade, and a person who has the energy and, yes, the youth to take us forward into a better, stronger, and more united future.
There have been quite a few technical issues this evening for us because of the fact that there are just so many people packed into that building. It's made it very hard to get information in and out. But Harper did have a few key things to say. He said that he was in a unique position to talk about the leader because he is the only person where both the people running worked for him. Of course, referencing Mark Carney as the former Bank of Canada governor while Stephen Harper was the prime minister. He said that his choice for prime minister, in his words, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pierre Poilievre. He says he has known him for over a quarter of a century, that he worked hard, he fought, and he learned, and that he has the political experience, and that is the most important characteristic. So obviously a very important endorsement tonight for Pierre Poilievre, just south of Edmonton here.
I'm Ashley Burke covering the NDP. We're almost halfway through this campaign and the NDP is very aware of the uphill battle it's facing. The party is stuck, still trailing far behind the Liberals and Conservatives in the polls and is at risk of being squeezed out. The NDP's leader campaigning here in Toronto, pledging to speed up construction to build 3 million homes across Canada over the next 5 years, including affordable housing. Now that plan comes with a $16 billion price tag during a time of economic uncertainty. Singh defended his strategy, saying that if Canada does slide into a recession from Donald Trump's trade war, he wouldn't cut his way out of it, but he would end private consultants and tax loopholes to help foot the bill. Singh's headed to BC next, where polls suggest that his own seat could be in jeopardy.
At this point, the main federal parties have locked in all their candidates. The deadline to finalize nominations passed today. Anyone dropped now won't be replaced. 8 candidates have been let go since the start of the race. Despite that, the Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP say they have people running in all 343 ridings. Well, young men are leading a sharp rise in the number of Canadians getting a firearms license. Many of them can vote for the first time, and they're keen to hear what the parties say about gun rights. Yvette Brand looks at what is driving the trend.
This 13-year-old squeezes the trigger of a Glock 19X. It's a restricted weapon that can only be used here at a gun range.
You're more powerful with this. You feel protected also.
Jaden Gagnon is part of a growing cohort of teenagers applying for gun licenses. This year, the number of applications went up 11% among people under 19.
The overarching interest is sort of experiencing what they see in movies.
Young men are at the forefront of this surge. Hashim Akbar says his first gunshot was jarring.
There's, I believe, a lot of adrenaline that goes through someone's body.
This 23-year-old university student got a gun license last year.
So most of the stuff that I wanted to buy was no longer legal. So I just went with the lever action that I could find.
5 years ago, the Liberals banned more than 2,000 models of firearms, including handguns and many semi-automatic style weapons, offering to buy them back.
After 2020, I believe the government may have maybe crossed the boundaries a little bit.
There is a lot of disappointment these days.
The shelves at this gun shop used to be full.
A lot of young Canadians getting involved in this for various reasons, and also recent immigrants who come to Canada because they want to enjoy the same rights and freedoms that we have.
When people start talking about gun owner rights, I get very concerned about the ideological flow of ideas from the U.S.
We've got our camera set up behind this bulletproof glass.
Sociologists blame a renewed interest in guns in part on the influence of social media.
The kind of masculine ideology that is being promoted on the radical right side of the political spectrum. It is very much a heroic masculinity, a nostalgic masculinity.
The surge in interest is creating new pressure to relax Canadian gun laws.
If you make something taboo, you generate interest in it.
Whatever the draw, this gun range owner says he's glad to see fresh young faces. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
In a surprise announcement, President Donald Trump said today the U.S. is planning direct talks with Iran over its nuclear program. At the same time, he issued a warning.
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon.
Trump made the comments during a White House meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Iran's foreign minister has since confirmed the meeting, saying it will take place Saturday in Oman. Now, at that same White House meeting, Israel's prime minister said he is working on a new deal to secure the release of dozens of hostages still held in Gaza as fighting there claims more lives. Medical officials in Gaza say at least 2 people were killed, including a journalist, and several others injured when tents outside a Han Yunis hospital were bombed. The Israeli military said it struck a Hamas militant. Tents near a second hospital, this one in Gaza City, were also hit. The ceasefire in Gaza ended in March. Well, Canada's fashion industry is bracing for major financial trouble in the wake of new U.S. tariffs.
I think that 25% of my customers will cancel their orders.
How companies big and small are grappling with the new uncertainty. Plus, reports the Toronto Blue Jays seal one of the biggest ever deals in baseball.
In their rotation, center field, gone!
The blockbuster contract with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And with 3 weeks until Election Day, the view from Medicine Hat, Alberta.
It's hard to live now. I got my kids living back in my basement because they can't afford rent.
We're back in 2. We are in Medicine Hat, Alberta tonight, a city built on energy and agriculture and used to volatility. But even still, there is anxiety about this trade war. Now, U.S. tariffs directed at China are causing problems for Canadian brands that get their clothes made there. That includes businesses right here in Alberta. Paula Duhatschek looks at how their challenges are piling up.
Canadian fashion companies, from major mall brands to small businesses, have been thrown a nasty curveball by the White House.
All of those rules are changing and the ground is shifting under our feet.
Even though the U.S. hasn't targeted Canadian fashion directly, it's imposing steep new tariffs on major garment-making hubs like China, India, and Vietnam. This Calgary-based women's workwear company manufactures in China and has American customers.
And maybe the U.S. market's just not something we can go at because our product will end up being just far too expensive for that customer.
On top of tariffs, a previous exception allowing small orders from China to the U.S. without tariffs will soon be gone.
I think that 25% of my customers will cancel their orders.
This Montreal kids clothing maker will soon have to slap a surcharge on all orders south of the border.
What people have to understand is that making clothing in India and China, it's not just because labor is cheap. There's an expertise there that does not exist here.
One of my members called this tariff hell.
Stock prices for fashion giants Aritzia and Lululemon tumbled when the tariffs were announced and are still down. Even companies that try to shift away from China to avoid tariffs now can't find a safe country to move to.
Smaller companies, it could be really devastating. And for very large companies, it could be very devastating. It's just everyone's in the same boat.
It's not just fashion. Any company that makes product overseas and sells it in the U.S. is trying to figure out what to do next.
They're going to be impacted by this, whether we're talking clothing, retail, toys, other items that they want to sell into the United States.
The owner of this women's wear company now focusing on customers north of the border. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
With Election Day approaching and a trade war underway, we're on the road tonight in Medicine Hat, Alberta.
We have a very resilient business community.
Coming up, what makes this region well suited to manage the trade turmoil? And the issues worrying people here as Canadians prepare to head to the polls.
Finances. Money. Always money.
I guess the economy. Worry about that.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next. Well, King Charles and Camilla are right there in Italy for a 4-day state visit. Charles will address the joint houses of Parliament. That's a first for a British monarch. And the royal couple will meet with the president and prime minister. But a planned audience with the Pope has been called off as Francis recovers from pneumonia. On Wednesday, Charles and Camilla will celebrate their 20th anniversary. Well, Blue Jays superstar Vladimir Guerrero Jr. appears to have cemented his legacy with the team after reportedly inking a multi-million-dollar 14-year contract extension. As Lisa Shing tells us, the deal is amongst the highest in Major League history.
Vladdy's contract situation.
A historic contract for a homegrown star.
To represent an entire country, I think, for a long period of time is that much more special.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr., known as a home run slugger, now likely a lifelong Blue Jay, reportedly inking a 14-year deal worth $500 million US starting next year, pending a physical.
It's great to see how much he loves Toronto.
Draws people in, right? Money makes money.
He has done it again.
This would be among the top 3 biggest contracts in baseball history, behind the one outfielder Juan Soto signed with the New York Mets, worth $765 million.
I looked at my phone and all of a sudden I was like, wow.
Jays superfan Leslie Mack is ecstatic, quite literally the icing on her end-of-season cake last year.
It's a big vibes contract. It is a belief in the Jays. It is a sense of continuity. It is a sense of loyalty as well, which can be, hard to find these days.
Guerrero has spent his entire pro career in Toronto since he was 16. A decade later, he's in the final year of his current contract. Without an extension, the 4-time All-Star could have hit free agency this fall.
He has become basically one of, if not the face of the franchise, so losing him would have been huge for the Jays.
The team hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, the World Series since 1993, and it tried to court big names in recent years but failed. So a major contract like this is a win, at least for now.
It's a win now and certainly a gamble for down the road. These contracts tend to not age very well.
Fans say it will have all been worth it if Vladdy can help the team get back on track. The future looking bright for Canada's lone Major League franchise. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, let's dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. During this federal election campaign, we're visiting communities, hearing the concerns of voters.
Like, money is a big issue for a lot of people.
If health care is going to be available.
Tonight, we're in Medicine Hat, Alberta, a city driven by economic diversity and resilience. Just maybe a model for the whole country in the face of a tariff war. Aaron Collins spoke with business owners here about how this city is positioned to succeed at a time of uncertainty.
Life here along the South Saskatchewan River has never really been easy. The settlers who came to this spot were told it was too hot and dry for farming, but they stuck it out. The story of Medicine Hat, one of persistence and resilience, a land plagued by droughts and crop failures, now home to Alberta's largest greenhouse.
Every time we bring people through here, they're always amazed. I mean, it's the sheer size, the amount of plants.
And business is good here. This greenhouse company, one of several in the area, expanding.
There's been a push for buying local and buying Canadian for a long time, but this certainly what's happened recently has increased that push. So we're looking at it that way. We're trying to see it as a silver lining thing.
As tensions with the U.S. linger, that move to buy Canadian helping to get more local produce into homes across the prairies.
So what is the plan for all these cucumbers?
Well, the plan for all of the product that's grown by Big Marble Farms is to get into the hands of all the Canadians that we can. I mean, we want to be able to displace out-of-country product. Anytime that I see out-of-country product on the shelves, I just see opportunity to replace it with Canadian.
Well, it was the railway that first drew people to Medicine Hat. Then the discovery of natural gas fueled a manufacturing boom here. All the while, agriculture helped sustain growth. An economy used to volatility and change.
We have a very resilient business community, I think, when you consider things like floods and droughts and some of the challenges that we've been up against over the decades, and we've always persevered.
That adversity leading to economic diversity. Case in point, carbon black.
So what the heck is this stuff?
This is pure carbon. It's known as medium thermal carbon black, and it's made from the thermal decomposition of natural gas. We just extract the carbon out of the natural gas. The majority of it gets used in automotive rubber parts. Anything that's black and made of rubber and on your car has carbon black in it.
This facility, one of just 2 on the planet using natural gas to make carbon black, capitalizing on that abundant and inexpensive source of carbon. These days, shipping around the world, this load on the way to Brazil. That diversity of markets, a plus during uncertain times.
We greatly appreciate and want to continue supplying our customers in the U.S., but we're very fortunate that over the last 4 decades, we have made a very purposeful effort to diversify our sales into other markets, so hence the tariffs are less impactful for us.
Diversity built into the DNA of Medicine Hat's economy, from wind turbines to Bitcoin mines. A wide variety of industries have taken off here, including the aerospace sector. Medicine Hat, Canada's drone capital, an industry that grew up around the local military base.
For over 2 decades, every U.S. Army drone flew with technology that was developed in Medicine Hat.
Reusable drones to measure weather around the world more sustainably, now being made here. Hope that a push to beef up Canada's military could be a boost for the aerospace sector here too.
Okay, so this is a target drone used for military training, but the Canadian military is not using it in Canada.
So every year, Canada D&D spends hundreds of millions of dollars on advanced military training, shooting at drones, that kind of thing. In recent years, it's been outside of Canada, south of the border in Europe. I want to bring it back to Alberta, bring it back to Canada.
Drones made here can be used for target practice at the nearby base. Doing that could help Canada's military rely less on the U.S.
We're hoping to see common sense prevail, that people will say, hey, we can do this in our own backyard, give jobs to Canadians, help the tech evolve, and then continue with our exports.
This local brewery also looking for an assist from government to grow, seeing an opportunity in the current uncertainty. Their craft beer clearly a hit here at home, but hoping to expand within Canada.
Beer doesn't get a lot fresher than this, but not so easy to get it across the border.
No, we work pretty hard on making it fresh and delicious, and it would be nice to be able to get it to people easier and quicker.
But interprovincial trade barriers are in the way, slowing the beer's path across the Saskatchewan border just 30 minutes away.
We would send it from here on a pallet, 5 hours on a truck up to Edmonton, where it would get rewrapped and sent from Edmonton to Saskatoon, where the Saskatchewan Liquor Board would look at it, do their labeling requirements, and then ship it all the way down to Swift Current. So our beer is on a 18-hour journey as opposed to the quick trip it would take from here.
A belief here that cutting that red tape will get this beer on taps in neighboring provinces quicker. Businesses in Medicine Hat constantly searching for new markets, a blueprint for success many other Canadian communities are scrambling to emulate. And as the sun sets on Canada's traditional trading relationship with the U.S., well, there's a sense here that just as they always have, people will rise above whatever challenges loom on the horizon.
So, Aaron, you spent a few days here in Medicine Hat. What's your takeaway from what people here say they actually want from this election?
I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that people in these parts, they want change in Ottawa, right? This is one of the most conservative places in the country. This is Danielle Smith's riding, right? This is a place where the Conservative Member of Parliament, Glenn Mott, won with 65% of the vote last time around, and that's with the People's Party getting 10%, okay? So this is not a battleground riding, but you do get the sense in this part of the world that people are going to continue to fight to keep their economy going, no matter what challenges are thrown at them from either side of the border.
Okay, they want to succeed.
They do.
All right, Aaron Collins, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, the major parties are trying to capture undecided voters here, so we asked people some questions. Well, one question in particular, tucked inside the national envelope.
Everything seems like it's going to shit, to say the least.
Hi, we're from CBC The National, and we have a question for you in this envelope.
It's in the national envelope. Oh.
Do I win like $1 million here? Or?
I wish.
What do you worry about?
Finances. Money. Always money.
I guess the economy. Worry about that.
Just hope gas prices go down, to be honest. It's expensive.
Yeah, I hope the oil field flourishes and keeps going on the up. More jobs.
The West seems to be forgotten. Okay, nobody cares about the West, and from Manitoba east. I think what we need is some acknowledgement of what we offer this country, whether it's agriculture or oil or uranium or potash.
What are you looking for from the next government?
I'm looking for policies that are good for the whole country.
My child's future. That's what I worry about the most.
Everybody worries about their kids, right?
What do I worry about? Becoming American.
No, Tiger!
What would make you worry less?
Get along with your neighbors.
Groceries cost $100 for a bag of groceries. I mean, I was born in '78, so it was a different time, but I think it was a more humbler, easier time.
I don't know what I want to do or what's going to happen after high school. My job, what my future is going to look like.
It's hard to live now. I got my kids living back in my basement because they can't afford rent. If I got to give money to my mom.
I'm worried about what's going to happen to the elderly because I just don't think government's helping them.
There's lots of worries, but I try not to read the news, so then I'm good.
There's more to come tonight from beautiful Medicine Hat, including what the polls say about the race here in Alberta and how it could play a key role in the results.
Normally, there's not a lot of attention paid to Alberta, but in this election, those handful of seats, who knows, they could make the difference.
And more from my conversation with pollster Janet Brown after the break. We're in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and we're looking at our CBC News poll tracker, an aggregate of major national polls. So here's today's snapshot. At the top, the Liberals at 43.9%. That's up 1.9 percentage points from last week. The Conservatives at 37.2%. That is down 0.3 of a percentage point. Now here in Alberta, the Conservatives are at 55.9%, and the Liberals are at 30.3%. In terms of this province's 37 seats, with these polling numbers, the Conservatives could win between 25 and 29 seats, the Liberals between 7 and 11. I spoke with Alberta pollster Janet Brown about this province's electoral math and the concerns of some here about Canada's response to the trade war. When we've heard Premier Danielle Smith talk about the prospect of a unity crisis, Preston Manning saying effectively the same thing. What is that conversation? What are people talking about?
Well, you know, this idea of Western separatism, I mean, it's been around a very long time, and it sort of ebbs and it flows, but there's always a small group of Albertans that are talking about it, and sometimes they're noisier than not. But what you have to keep in mind is none of those people would vote NDP in an election. But those people are in the UCP camp. They still don't represent a majority of people in the UCP, but they're this sort of sizable minority that Danielle Smith keeps her eye on, and she talks to them a lot in her messaging.
What is it that she's suggesting will happen?
Well, Danielle Smith got elected on this mandate of saying we have to fight Ottawa. We have to fight harder for the development of our resources here in Alberta. And so what she's saying to the federal government is if we don't see movement on those things, we are going to start agitating again. We are going to make this a national unity issue. We want Alberta's economic interests to be better recognized by the rest of Canada.
And how much traction do you see that getting here?
Well, as I said, there's this small group of Albertans who have always had this sort of Western independence sentiment that they've shared. I'm not sure that that group is growing, but that group is definitely getting noisier.
Where does this province fit within the national conversation in this moment, though?
Well, Canada's largest industry, oil and gas, is centered here in Alberta. And when you're in the middle of a trade dispute, when Canada's economy is threatened the way it is, the health of the strongest industry in the country is going to be really important, not just to Albertans, but to everybody. And Alberta's going to want to make sure that the rest of the country is paying attention to their interests and not trying to stymie the development of the oil and gas industry.
Is there a perception that Canadians still don't get Alberta? And by Canadians, I mean people who don't live in Alberta.
Absolutely. There is this very strong sense that other Canadians don't appreciate Alberta, don't understand our most important industries. You talk to people outside of Alberta and they're shocked to know that oil and gas is the single biggest industry in the country. They're surprised to find out how much more Alberta contributes in transfer payments than they receive back in government services. I think here in Alberta, we're very well versed on the economics of oil and gas and Alberta's economic position in the rest of Canada, but we don't feel that the rest of Canada understands that.
So I appreciate that federally, Alberta doesn't necessarily make or break an election, but there is sort of some alchemy this time that might make more seats in this province in play, right?
Well, usually the country doesn't invest a lot of attention into Alberta during a federal election because there's only a handful of seats that are up for grabs. But now when it looks like it's uncertain whether this is going to be a majority government or a minority government, then suddenly 6 or 8 seats makes a difference. So yeah, normally there's not a lot of attention paid to Alberta, but in this election, those handful of seats, who knows, they could make the difference.
And the ones you're talking about are in the urban centers, so Calgary, Edmonton in particular.
Right. I'm thinking about a riding like Calgary Confederation, which is in downtown Calgary. If the Liberals are going to win a majority, they almost have to win that seat to get to a majority. It's like, that's almost like a bellwether riding for whether the Liberals are going to win a minority or a majority.
So 4 seats in Calgary, 4 in Edmonton, might tell you what kind of story?
Well, it might tell you the story of whether the government's going to be a majority or a minority. it's hard to imagine the Liberals getting enough seats to get to a majority without winning at least 4 or 5 seats in Alberta.
Let's talk about vote splitting for a second. Where do you see it likely to happen, and under what circumstances do you see it starting to happen?
So the 2 ridings that I think are most vulnerable to vote splitting are Edmonton-Griesbach and Edmonton-Strathcona. They both currently have an NDP MP running again, incumbents, popular. The NDP will really want to win those elections. But I could see progressive voters in Edmonton getting worried about a Conservative victory and switching from the NDP to a Liberal. And then if you've got too much vote splitting, then maybe the Conservatives can come up the middle and win those seats. So, you know, I don't know how many 3-way seats there are in Canada, but, you know, there's not too many in Alberta, but those are 2 solid 3-way votes, and that makes a seat like that very unpredictable.
Okay, lots to watch for. We're not done yet here in Medicine Hat. Tomorrow night, we'll hear from voters who live here, part of our national conversation in the lead up to the April 28th election. Here's a preview of a bit of the chat when they started talking about the leaders.
I believe that Pierre is way more in touch. He grew up a normal kid in Calgary, and I want someone in there that's going to be able to relate, that can think back like, hey, what was it like growing up and what does Canada need? And Mark Carney is not that.
We need to tighten the belt and get to business. When the business is thriving, we're all going to do well. That's what I think.
I really disagree that Pierre is the person to do this. I see nothing about him that is relatable. He may have had humble beginnings, but that man is wealthy, and he has spent his entire career being a politician.
Put him next to Mark Carney, though.
I think Pierre has spent the better part of a decade shouting into the void that Canada is broken, how everything is so wrong here. And now I'm hearing him change his tune.
We are broken right now. Like there's people going bankrupt, there's people can't afford to live. We are broken right now, and we're all feeling it.
And I think we should be able to admit that and it not be like shameful. It's like, no, that is a reality right now.
Okay, that's just a little bit of a much larger conversation that you'll hear tomorrow night on The National. But coming up tonight, at 97 years old, a tortoise called Mommy is a first-time mom.
They're a critically endangered species, so each and every one of them are valuable.
Meet the 2 nearly 100-year-old tortoises helping to save their species. That's next in our moment. Nope, these are not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They are baby tortoises, Western Santa Cruz Galapagos tortoises to be specific, and they are the newest additions to the Philadelphia Zoo. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because their father is 96 years old and their mother is believed to be 97, making her the oldest known first-time mom of her species, which is listed as critically endangered. So these remarkable hatchlings make our moment.
These 4 hatchlings, they're the cutest little things you've ever seen. Mommy first came to the zoo in 1932. She is estimated to be 97 years old, weighing in at 284 pounds. Abrazo, he's dating above his age. He's estimated to be 96 years old. He weighs in at roughly 500 pounds. He's huge. Initially, the 2 were not successful, but then a few months later, we had 4 hatchlings. So not only is our Mommy named Mommy, that is now her occupation. At 97 years old, she is a first-time mom to the Western Santa Cruz Galapagos tortoise. They're a critically endangered species, so each and every one of them are valuable. And our goal is that these 4 hatchlings will be a part of a thriving population of Galapagos tortoises 100 years from now, and I love that.
So this is amazing. And in the category, if you learn something new every day, or at least certainly I do, did not realize that the sex of the hatchling is determined at the temperature at which it's incubated. So if it's less than 82.4 degrees, it's a boy. So if it's cool, it's a dude. Thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault with the team in Medicine Hat. We'll see you from here tomorrow night. Take care.